Welcome to The Forge. I'm Al the Geek. I love making big, crazy blasters. Here on The Forge, we're going to show you some tips, some tricks, and how to mod and paint your blasters. From anything from making giant master keys to making that big, long, cool sniper that you're always looking for. Whether it be cosplay or whether it be foam flinging, here at The Forge, we're going to show you how to do that. Hi, I'm Al the Geek, and on this episode of The Forge, we're going to talk about paint. And when I say paint, I mean from the beginning to the end. What I'm holding here is a good example. This is the midpoint, but today what we're going to talk about are the base primers, some of the products I like to use, and how to base it out to this point, and then ultimately detailing and everything else. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, so in today's episode, we're going to talk about paint. Now, if you've seen the things I make, I'm pretty good at painting. And let me just tell you right off the bat, it's not because I'm professionally trained. I never went to art school. In fact, the first ones I painted were pretty abysmal. So don't look at the stuff I make and think you can't do it. For me, it was a lot of trial and error. It was a lot of probably what you're doing right now, checking out YouTube, checking out different blogs, Facebook, other social media outlets, just to see what people's experience are and in terms of what they refer. Well, I'm probably now one of those videos. So in my whole trial and error process, these are some of the techniques I do, and these are some of the products that I like to use to make what I make. So first and foremost, we're starting with a standard blaster, right? We'll start with a nice small one here. And for me, I felt that I've never had to take them apart completely to paint them. I understand some people do, but I never have. I like painting them whole. It saves me time. It's easier than taking them apart and putting them back together, but you do you. This is how I do them. So at this point, I also like to sand off logos and any kind of writing on it. So in this case, if I were to do this one, most likely I'd sand off the Fortnite logo right here, and I'd probably sand off the warning over here. I feel like you don't have to sand the entire blaster. You do not have to sand everything off. I get proper painting techniques. I am a professional painter by trade, but in this case, if you have the correct primer, and if the surface will take it, you don't always have to sand the whole thing. So if it's killing you to sand the whole blaster, try this and see if it works for you. So for me in this case, I would just sand off the writing and then also the nameplate is over here. Now, you can do it a couple of different ways. Some people obviously do it with sandpaper, different grits of sandpaper. For me, because of the finish I look for, because it's a post-apocalyptic finish in terms of distressing, I do not need that mirror gloss finish. This doesn't have to look like a brand new car. I don't do that. I get it if you want to, and you want to do like the grits from 150 to 250 to 300 to 400 to really get that smooth finish. But that is a lot of work, and that's not something I want to do. So the other thing I use, if you've never seen one of these, this one is a battery powered one. It is a DeWalt. It is an orbital sander. This orbital sander is amazing. Why? It saves your arm, it saves your elbow. It'll sand so much of so many things. You get sanding paper like this. You can pick this up at like Home Depot, Lowe's. You can even get it on Amazon or online. And the grit I use usually is 120 to 150. It depends what's available. And you can even set the speeds, depending on how fast you want this to oscillate. Switches right here. And basically, I use this to this and sand off the Nerf logos. For example, we've done that all at 15, 20 seconds, and most of that Nerf logo is gone. So you can see the ease of how this works. That would be my recommendation. So, also, again, if you're picking up used blasters and you find it to be greasy or dirty, then yeah, I suggest washing them. Usually brand new out of the box, they'll be fine. But if you're worried about it, definitely wash them, but make sure they're dry. So after they're dry, then the next thing I use, I have tried Rust-Oleum. I have tried different primers. Some of them work, some are great. This, for me, is the tried and true. It is a vinyl and fabric dye. It is the vinyl dye. You pick this up at automotive stores. This stuff is around 11 to 13 bucks a can now, but this was designed to paint over vinyl seats in old cars. This sticks really well, dries super fast, stinks to the high heavens, but it is worth every second of it. This is why I love this stuff. Never mind, it's a strong, durable finish. Usually in 2 coats, you're able to cover everything. It dries super fast, it is super durable, and it sticks to almost anything, but it does stink to high heavens. My recommendation is to wear a proper ventilated mask. Breathing this stuff in is not good for you. Also, on the sanding, if you're sanding something as well, you're creating a fine plastic, definitely wear a mask, one that's a pretty thick one. I use this. This has a 3M filter on it to basically keep your lungs safe. Because trust me, you do this long enough and you're not using a mask, you're gonna have problems. So then to give you an idea of how this stuff works while I'm talking about it, what we have here is a regulator stock, Nerf stock. It is pretty white. Always make sure you shake your paint so you can hear that rattle thing moving around in there. If it's not moving around in there, you haven't shaken it enough. And again, about 6 inches to 12 inches away, just like that. Don't worry if the first coat doesn't cover, but you notice how I'm kind of doing it in strokes. So there we go, first coat. Let's leave that to dry in the meantime. Now, once you actually hit it all, 2-3 coats, here's a good example. I have a Nerf Vulcan here. You can imagine how much paint I use on this, but it's still less than 1 can. And you can see the kind of solid finish that you get on it. Never mind how durable that is. And I never had to sand the whole thing or wash the whole thing, just different logos. How you can tell? Now, this test, mind you, some paint you gotta let cure. Just because it's dry doesn't mean it's cured. This is definitely cured. And notice, you can't scratch it off. Some paints, when they stick, and you can tell, if you can easily scratch it off or do something like I'm doing now, you know it hasn't stuck to it. So then, once I have it all based out in black, my next process is basically picking the color I want. But also, when I pick the color, it's determining how much of this I want to paint. Now, you can do it all with like brushes or an airbrush, small brush. I always go with the bigger stuff first. So again, spray paint for my main color. You can see it in my builds. So I determine what sections I want it to be colored and what to remain black. And then again, I just use this standard blue painter's tape. Pick it up Home Depot, Lowe's, other automotive, well, not automotive stores, like home improvement stores. And I use this and I tape out everything I do not want painted. Once you get it painted, it looks something like that. Notice, still no detailing, but I have the major color on it. I have the things I want to remain black, still black, and then I have the gray where I want it to be gray. This, I still have to detail paint, but basically, from that step to this step is where you end up. Now, to get to here, the big question is, what kind of paint do I use? So, I have tried Rust-Oleum, which is still a great paint. It's affordable, it works. My knock on some of the Rust-Oleum paint is, especially on the lighter colors, they don't always cover as well. And dry times are very long, which is also kind of affects my flow. And I'll face it, these fast dry paints have spoiled me. So if all you can get or afford is Rust-Oleum, that is good, it'll still work. But if you want to do better, I'd say something better. Also, this new line of Behr paint, this stuff in the spray paints is surprisingly better than I thought. This, at least the black matte that I use, also is pretty sticky. Usually works well, very well as a base primer. And I'll get this in terms of larger projects, maybe like a Vulcan or a big set of shoulder pads where you're going through a lot of paint to save money, because this stuff is only about, I think, $7 and change for a can. But again, it doesn't dry fast. Durability is good, but you gotta really let it sit and dry for a couple of days. Now, again, vinyl dye is my go-to, but after that, this is what I use. This is a product called Plutonium. Plutonium, this stuff is a spray paint based out of a company out of Detroit. You can really only buy it online. You can get it at HomeDepot.com or at Plutonium.com. This stuff ranges from about $14 to $18 a can. It is not cheap, but this is so worth it. Their Pantone of colors is amazing. It dries fast, it's durable, the colors are super bright, and on most of the colors, 2 coats covers everything. If you've ever painted with white, you know the frustration. Sometimes you hit it with 3 or 4 coats of white and it's still not showing. See this? On a black blaster, much like this one is, all black. Taped it off and I hit it with white. I'll let you guess. Take a guess how many coats of white you think that took. I'll wait. No, I'm not waiting anymore. That's enough time. 2 coats. That's it. 2 coats of white, and that's what it looks like. That's how good this stuff is. In fact, let's do it. So again, what I have here is Plutonium white. Now, normally it looks like this. However, pandemic shortages, they reverted back to this can, but still the same product. So don't let that fool you. Usually it looks like this. Plutonium Arctic white, give it a shake. And here's a good example. We have something that's already painted in a dark gray. So you can already imagine going white on gray. How many coats is this gonna take? Well, let's find out and see how fast it dries too. So we take it, hit it. Notice already one coat. How fast that's already covering. But we gotta let it dry, so we'll do that. We're gonna set it aside and let it dry. While that dries, this stuff, the way it's designed, essentially it's been explained to me as almost like taking an automotive paint and making it into an aerosol, but a really good aerosol. This thing, again, 2 coats, it's dry. In the summer, that I'll probably give another 2-3 minutes and I can almost hit it again with a second coat and it covers. All the fun color blasters you see that I have, they're all mostly plutonium based. This is plutonium paint. It doesn't take much also. So as much as you're thinking, wow, it's like 15, 17 bucks, I can get, let's say, a Behr for 7. Well, here's the difference. Guaranteed what this color covers in 2 coats, this may take 3 or 4 if it dries well and proper. So if you've evened it out in terms of time and how much you actually use, it's actually worth the money. I can't tell you how many blasters I can spray out in this stuff, and it always looked good and it's always durable. And again, let's go back to this. This is plutonium white, that's on the black. Again, we talked about durability. So you know, sometimes when you paint something, you wonder if it sticks or not. Look at this, again, I am hitting it, I am trying to scratch it off. It's not coming off, why? Because that stuff is just that good. It is super durable and it is super great. If you can, plutonium, it is some great stuff. You'd think I was a salesman for them. I promise you I don't get any money for pushing the plutonium stuff. I just like it that much. So then, after all this, there is a stage where you're gonna take it and you're gonna detail it. I don't have any of that here. That'll be a different episode where we get into detailing and the actual distressing of a product with dry brushing. But once you have a blaster at a point where you like it and you are finished. You are not finished yet, and I can't recommend this more. When you're done, you have to hit a clear coat on it. Regardless of what paint you use, the use and the oils in your hands will start deteriorating that paint, make it gummy, or actually ruin the paint job. You need to do a clear. Now for clear, this is what I do. Originally, I used this stuff. Again, automotive store, Duplicolor, matte finish, and look at that. It's for car rims. Car rim clear. If they're using this for car rims, I can pretty well guarantee that has got to be a durable paint, and you're not using some cheap paint to seal your car rims. This stuff used to be about 11 bucks a can. It dried super fast, super hard, stunk to high heaven, but was great. Problem, very difficult to find now. I don't know if they stopped making this, discontinued it, and when I did find it, it was expensive. I had to find another option. So I went to Home Depot, started the whole process again. And surprisingly, this one, the Glidden Max Flex top coat in a matte finish, and it's only 7 bucks a can, does almost or just as good of a job as what that stuff did. This stuff, again, goes on pretty quick, dries super fast, stinks, and dries hard. So I actually hit everything with about 2 or 3 coats of this. This thing is a godsend. Also, sometimes when you've done clears, you'll probably notice certain paints on certain other paints bubble up the undercoat or the under finish and ruin it. This has not done it to the plutonium product or to the vinyl product, the vinyl dye product. It all works. None of my stuff ever bubbles. That's also part of what you're gonna learn in this whole painting process, is that some paints horribly react to others. Now I'm sure someone out there will tell me the reason why is because this is this chemical base and that chemical base. I was never good at chemistry, and trust me, there is a science to why it doesn't work. But I know from my own experience, plutonium on the vinyl dye with this on top of it always works and is always solid. So then, let's go back and find out. Vinyl dye, and it's a hot, humid day here in Virginia. Look at that. Notice how much black paint's on my hand. Notice how dry that is. Notice how fast that is. We all live busy lives. Sometimes you have time to let things dry. Sometimes you don't. Black vinyl dye, look at that, second coat already, and it's already pretty well covered. Now, on the same token, I might be a little early, but let's find out. I hit that with plutonium white. Guarantee you if you use something like this, it'd still be wet and still be sticky. Even though I do like this stuff very much, it's not the same. Let's find out. Oh, wait a minute. See that? See how well that covered? And that's only one thin coat. See how fast that dried? You see how durable that is? No, this is not a magic trick. Otherwise, I'd be a magician. But you know what? I need more. Let's do it. Look at that. 2 coats. Look how white that is. Give it another 2 to 5 minutes, dry. Now, to put tape on it, I probably wait a couple hours, but already you can handle it. And look how well that covers. Plutonium Arctic White. That alone, when you have a product, especially the white, that can cover that well, then you know it is some great stuff. So ultimately, when I got to this, there was no manual. There was no, here, you should go here and do this. My stuff, even though it works very well, and I'll recommend doing this, you may find something better. You may find something cheaper. You know what? That's awesome. New product may come out. If you do, please let me know. I'm happy to try it. But I've gotten here through a trial and error process with different products and different paints. If what I show you helps you and makes some cool things, I'd love to see it. Send it to me. If you have any questions, again, leave them down below in the comments. Reach out to us. We're happy to help you. But like I said, when it comes to painting, this is the method I use, this is the method I recommend, and this is what's worked for me. In later episodes, we're going to get into actual detailing, and the way I do it is with a Tamiya model paint and with brushes. I do have an airbrush, and I know airbrushes, blah, 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 you can, but this works for me, and this is the way I do it. But that we're going to do at a different time. Now, I'm cutting it kind of quick, because I did just hit it, but I'm not going to rub it, but look at that. Notice, still a little tacky, but no white paint's coming off. And look how that covers. Plutonium. Anyways, thank you all very much for watching. I hope this helps. Reach out to me. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me on The Forge. Be sure to tune in next week where I'll give you more tricks and tips and teach you how to make it big, bad, and beautiful.